A Mormon fell in love with me, and it changed everything when Daniel A. Mormon missionary knocked on my door. I thought it would be just another polite conversation, white shirt, black tie, name tag. He looked every bit the devoted believer, but there was something in his eyes, something he wasn't saying. I should have ignored it. I should have walked away, but I didn't, and neither did he. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because what happens next will leave you speechless. I wasn't expecting anyone. It was a slow Saturday afternoon, the kind where time drags and the world outside feels distant. I had just made a coffee, scrolling mindlessly through my phone, when there was a knock at the door. I considered ignoring it. I wasn't expecting a delivery, and I wasn't in the mood for small talk with a stranger, but something made me get up. When I opened the door, he was standing there, white shirt, neatly pressed, black tie, name tag shining under the sunlight. Elder Elijah, Mormon missionary. I almost sighed. Not this again. Good afternoon, he said, smiling politely. I'm Elder, and this is my companion, Elder Walker. We're sharing a message today about the importance of faith in our lives. Do you have a moment there? It was the usual script. I had seen these guys around town before, walking in pairs, knocking on doors. Always polite, always careful. Elder Walker, standing beside him, had a stiff posture. His smile practiced, but Daniel, he was different. His gaze lingered on me just a second too long. His voice had the perfect balance of conviction and hesitation, and something in his eyes doubt. I leaned against the door frame, crossing my arms. I'm not really religious. That's okay, Daniel said quickly. We're not here to pressure anyone, just to share something we believe can bring peace and meaning. His voice was smooth, calm too. Calm, like someone who had rehearsed every possible response but wasn't sure which one fit the moment. Elder Walker, she eased beside him, clearly less patient than his companion. If you'd be willing to give us 5 minutes. I'm good, I said. I expected them to give up. That's what usually happened. A polite nod, a have a blessed day, and they'd move on to the next house. But Daniel hesitated for just a second. His fingers twitched at his side, his lips parted as if he was about to say something that wasn't scripted. Elder Walker shot him a glance, sharp and expectant. Daniel swallowed, forcing a smile. All right, thank you for your time. They turned to leave, but before I could stop myself, I said, hey. Daniel paused. Looking back, I didn't even know why I said it. I had no reason to keep him there, but something about the way he hesitated, the way his mask almost cracked, made me want to push just a little. How long have you been doing this? I asked. His brows lifted slightly. He glanced at Walker, then back at me. My mission, almost a year. And you like it? Elder Walker stiffened, clearly annoyed by the detour, but Daniel hesitated again. It's fulfilling, he said, a safe answer, a trained answer, but his eyes told a different story. I smirked. You don't sound convinced. Elder Walker shot him a look, warning. Daniel cleared his throat, recovering quickly. Faith isn't always about certainty, it's about trust. Good response, clean, perfectly practiced, but I caught it, that flicker of something else in his gaze before he looked away. He was hiding something. Elder Walker took a step forward, subtly, guiding Daniel back in line, we should get going. He said his tone. Final Daniel nodded his mask back in. Place have a good day. Sir, like I was just another stranger. On his route, I watched them walk away, blending into the neighborhood like they hadn't just left behind something unfinished, but I wasn't stupid, I had seen it, the hesitation, the doubt, the curiosity Daniel wasn't supposed to have. And I knew somehow this wouldn't be the last time we crossed paths. I didn't expect to see him again. After all, Mormon missionaries had strict schedules. They followed routines, stayed in assigned areas, and stuck to their partners like shadows. It wasn't like Daniel could just decide to show up on my doorstep again, and yet 3 days later, there he was. I was walking out of a coffee shop downtown, my headphones in my mind elsewhere, when I nearly bumped into him. White shirt, black tie, that same damn name tag. He looked just as surprised as I did. Elder, I said, pulling out one of my earbuds. Should I be worried that you're following me? His mouth opened, then shut. His companion, Elder Walker, was a few steps behind, looking unimpressed. Just coincidence, Elijah finally said, but there was something tight in his voice. He looked different this time, tense, conflicted. I smirked. Funny how that happens. Elder Walker sighed. We should keep moving. Daniel nodded, but his feet didn't move for a second, just 1 second. He hesitated. His lips parted like he wanted to say something. His fingers flexed at his sides. Then he looked away. Have a good day, sir, he said, and walked past me. I watched him go. Something inside me twisting. This wasn't over, not even close. I should have let it go. Daniel was just another missionary, one of dozens walking around town in their matching white shirts and black ties, knocking on doors, handing out pamphlets, and reciting scriptures like a well-rehearsed script. But he wasn't just another missionary, because when he walked past me that day outside the coffee shop, there was something in his eyes, something unspoken, something hesitant, and it stayed with me. So when I saw him again alone, this time I didn't hesitate. It was late afternoon, and I was sitting on a bench near the park, sipping an iced coffee and watching people pass by. And then, like fate had a twisted sense of humor, Daniel appeared again. No Elder Walker this time, just him walking across the grass, his tie slightly loosened, his expression distant. I waited, curious if he'd see me first. He did, and for a split second I saw it again, the hesitation, but instead of looking away, he did something I hadn't expected. He walked toward me. I smirked as he stopped a few feet away. Didn't expect to see you here, Elder. His lips pressed together like he was debating something in his head. It's just Daniel right now, he said, his voice lower than usual. That caught me off guard. No missionary title, I teased. He exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. We get a little time to ourselves sometimes, and you chose to spend it here. His gaze flickered away like he wasn't sure of the answer himself. I just needed air. Something about the way he said it made my stomach twist. I nodded to the spot beside me. Sit. Then he hesitated. Of course he did, but then slowly he sank down onto the bench, his hands clasped together between his knees. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The air was thick with something unspoken, but he didn't leave. How long have you been in Utah? I finally asked. He glanced at me, surprised by the Question for my mission. Year, and you've got another one left. Right, he nodded, then what he let out a breath, shaking his head. I don't know, I frowned. You don't? No, Daniel glanced at me, his eyes darker than usual. We're not supposed to think that far ahead. We're supposed to focus on the now, on the work, the mission, but you do think about it. Something flashed across his face, guilt. But he didn't deny it. I didn't see Daniel for a week after that night in the park. I told myself I wasn't waiting for him, that I wasn't thinking about the way he had looked at me, the way his breath hitched when our skin touched. But every time I walked through town, every time I passed a pair of missionaries in their crisp white shirts and black ties, my eyes searched for him. And then on the 8th day he found me. First I was sitting alone at a diner, stirring my coffee absent-mindedly, when I felt it a present gaze. I looked up, and there he was, standing just outside, hands clenched into fists, his expression unreadable. His tie was slightly loosened, his sleeves rolled up to his forearms. Tiny act of rebellion in his otherwise polished appearance, and for the first time since we met he was alone. I raised an eyebrow, tilting my head toward the empty seat across from me. You going to stand there all night, or are you coming in? He hesitated. Of course he did, but then he moved. He pushed open the door and walked toward me, his steps slow, deliberate, like he was convincing himself with every inch closer that he was making a mistake. And yet he sat down. Neither of us spoke for a moment. I let the silence stretch, let him decide if he was going to keep running, or finally let himself breathe. Finally he exhaled. I shouldn't be here, I smirked, leaning back against the booth. And yet here you are. His jaw tightened. He looked down at his hands, fingers twisting the edge of a napkin. I don't know why I came, liar, I said simply. His eyes snapped up to mine, and there it was again, that fire, that fear, that silent battle wagging inside him. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. So tell me, Daniel, what exactly are you fighting so hard against? He swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. He opened his mouth, then closed it, and in that moment I knew without him saying a single word. So I did something reckless, something stupid, something I knew I shouldn't. I reached across the table, slow, deliberate, and let my fingers graze over his. It was the softest touch, barely anything, but he sucked in a sharp breath, like I had burned him, and for the first time he didn't pull away, not immediately. For 3, maybe 4 seconds, he let it happen. Then suddenly, he jerked his hand back like he had been electrocuted, his breathing uneven, his entire body rigid. I have to go, he said, voice tight, pained, and this time he ran, but not before I saw it, not before I saw the truth written all over his face. Daniel was falling, and he had no idea how to stop. I didn't chase him. I could have run after him, grabbed his wrist, forced him to look at me and admit what we both already knew. But Daniel wasn't ready, not yet. So I let him go, but something told me he'd be back, and I was right. 4 nights later, I was closing up the small bookstore where I worked part-time when I heard footsteps outside. It was late, too late for customers, and when I turned there, he was. Daniel stood near the entrance, bathed in the glow of the street lamp, looking like a man who had been fighting demons all night. His Shirt was slightly wrinkled, his tie missing, his dark eyes tired, conflicted. Desperate, he wasn't supposed to be here. But he was. I pushed open the door without a word. He hesitated, and then he stepped. Inside the store was dimly lit, the scent of old books and wood polish filling the air. I locked the door behind him, not because I thought he'd run, but because I wanted to be alone with him. Daniel stood stiffly, his fingers curled into fists at his sides. His breathing was uneven, like he had run all the way here. I leaned against the counter, watching him. You look like hell. He let out a short, humorless laugh. I feel like it, I nodded, waiting, because whatever had brought him here, it wasn't small. Finally, he exhaled. I don't know what to do. My chest tightened. About what? He lifted his gaze, and for the first time he didn't look away. His voice was horror, raw. About you. Silence, thick, heavy. Something flickered in his expression, fear and relief tangled together. He had finally said it. I pushed off the counter, stepping toward him, then stopped, fighting it. His breath hitched. I can't. I took another step, close enough to see the tension in his jaw, the way his fingers twitched, like he wanted to reach for me but couldn't let himself. Why not? I asked, my voice quiet. He swallowed hard. Because it's wrong. I frowned. Says who? He blinked, his brows drawing together. Something cracked in his expression. I saw it, the doubt, the question he wasn't ready to ask himself. He had spent years believing this was black and white, but now he wasn't so sure. And then I did something reckless. I reached out, slow, deliberate, and touched his face. He froze. My fingers brushed against his jaw, and his breath caught his skin was warm, his muscles tight, like he was bracing for something he couldn't name. And he didn't pull away. Not this time. For a long, fragile moment, he let himself feel it, and then his resolve shattered with a sharp inhale. He grabbed me by the collar, yanking me forward, and before I could process what was happening, his lips crashed into mine. It wasn't soft, it wasn't hesitant, it was desperate, a battle and a surrender all at once. My hands gripped his waist, pulling him closer. He let out a shaky breath against my mouth, his fingers curling into my shirt like he was afraid I might disappear. For once in his life, he wasn't holding back, and neither was I. This moment his lips met mine, it was like something inside him finally broke free. There was no hesitation, no careful restraint, just raw, unfiltered need. His hands gripped the fabric of my shirt like he was holding on for dear life, like he had been starving for this and was too afraid to admit it until now. I kissed him back, just as deep, just as desperate, my fingers slipping into his hair, pulling him closer, not caring that we were still standing in the middle of a bookstore, not caring about anything except the way he felt against me. And for a brief, perfect moment, he let it happen. Then he pulled away, suddenly, violently, like he had just touched fire and realized it could burn. I barely had time to react before he stumbled backward, his chest rising and falling rapidly, his hands shaking, his eyes wild, conflicted. Afraid. I can't, he whispered, his voice hoarse. My stomach clenched. Daniel, he shook his head violently, running a hand through his already disheveled hair. This isn't supposed to happen. This isn't. He cut himself off, sucking in a sharp breath. God, what have I done? I took a step forward. He took one back. Stop, he said quickly, his voice cracking. Don't come near me. I froze for a moment. Neither of us spoke, the only sound was our ragged breathing, the weight of what just happened hanging between us like a live wire. Then, before I could say anything else, he turned and ran. I stood there completely still, watching as he disappeared out the door like a man escaping something he didn't want to admit was real, and just like that he was gone. I didn't hear from him for 3 weeks. No accidental run-ins, no late night visits. Nothing. I should have expected it. I should have known this was coming, but it still hurt like hell. And then one night, just as I was convincing myself to let him go, my phone buzzed. One message from him. I don't know what to do. My heart stopped because neither did. And I stared at my phone, my heart hammering in my chest. I don't know what to do after 3 weeks of silence, 3 weeks of him pretending that night never happened. This was how he came back to me. I should have been angry. I should have ignored it, but I didn't. Instead, my fingers hovered over the keyboard, my mind racing. What could I even say then? Before I could overthink it, I typed, "Where are you?" Seconds passed, then 3 dots appeared, and then his reply. Outside, my pulse spiked. I shot up from the couch, moving toward the door. Before I even realized what I was doing, when I stepped outside, there he was standing at the edge of my driveway, hands stuffed into his pockets, looking wrecked. His tie was gone, his sleeves rolled up, his hair slightly disheveled, like he'd been pulling at it in frustration, and his eyes, God, his eyes, they looked like they carried the weight of the world. I swallowed hard. "Daniel," he exhaled sharply, his gaze flickering to mine before dropping to the ground. "I don't know why I'm here." "Yeah, you do," I said softly, his jaw clenched. He looked away. "I can't." I took a step forward. "Then why are you here?" His breath hitched. I saw it happen, the war inside him, the battle between everything he's been taught and everything he feels when he's near me. And just like that night in the bookstore, he broke in one desperate motion. He grabbed me by the front of my shirt and pulled me into him. I barely had time to react before his lips crashed against mine, but this time it was different. This wasn't just desperation, this was surrender. I kissed him back, deep, aching, my hands sliding into his hair as he pressed me against the side of the house. His breath ragged, his fingers gripping me like he was afraid I'd disappear. For once he wasn't running, and neither was I. He pulled back just enough to rest his forehead against mine, breathing hard, his hands still tangled in my shirt. "I don't know how to stop this," he whispered. I swallowed. "Then don't." His grip tightened. "I don't know how to be this." I brushed my thumb over his cheek. "Slow, careful, then let's figure it out." His eyes squeezed shut. "I'm scared." I know. Silence. And then he kissed me again, and this time he didn't pull away.